On to the keynote. We are at the keynote portion of the evening. I can't believe we made it here, to be honest. Sponsored by BBSI. Is your business springing forward, but your lack of administrative support is holding you back? BBSI is a full team of professionals offering payroll, HR, risk and safety, recruiting, and business consulting services to help you keep your business on solid ground. PubTalks are awesome, and BBSI is proud to be a part of bringing them to you each month. And Sensiba Sanfilippo, SGA, has merged with Sensiba Sanfilippo. Merging with a larger firm increased resources for our clients and staff beyond our current capacity. We now have a team available to help you determine if your business qualifies for the Employee Retention Credit, which was extended through the end of 2021 and can be worth up to $33,000 per employee. So reach out to Amber Yates, also EDCO's board president-elect, for more details. EarthCruiser USA designs, engineers, and manufactures the world's most accomplished overland adventure vehicles. Founded in Australia in 2009 and forged in gorgeous Bend, Oregon in 2013. The art and science of building and maintaining expedition vehicles designed to handle incredibly rugged terrain comes from one place: hard-earned extreme field experience, traversing some of the world's most intimidating terrain. They take all their first-hand knowledge and pour it into engineering award-winning vehicles for explorers answering the call to adventure. Here to tell us more about their journey, Lance and Michelle. Lance and Michelle, where are you at, my friends? Hi, Lance. How you doing?
G'day, mate. How are you?
I'm great. Okay, I'm going to sneak off over here, but if you need me, let me know.
I'll let you know. You made that sound really good. Thank you.
You guys are great.
G'day, everybody. Thanks so much for having some time with us. This is Michelle, the big boss.
Yeah, you know, behind every man there's a woman, and I am it, so...
I always like to say I get the last word and everything, and that basically says, yes, dear.
Well trained. I don't...
Do we have two of these? That would be great. Do you mind? I'm not overly terrific at rules. If you don't mind, we'll probably take the story of EarthCruiser relatively short because I love questions. So the story behind EarthCruiser is Michelle and I always love to travel. We actually met each other in a jungle in Malaysia a very long time ago. So when it comes to travelling by vehicle in interesting places, we had a pretty good idea what they should do and absolutely what they should not do from experience. So fast forward a little bit, we'd sold a successful company in Australia and we wanted to start to travel. And so with my background in vehicle building and love of four drive and extreme off-road events, we decided to build something. If we're going to build it, we build it to travel. It had to be absolutely superb. It had to do all the things we wanted it to, and a few key ingredients was that it must have a toilet inside. Yes, dear. Must have a very comfortable bed and a hot shower after you finish having your fun. And so, again, with the experience in vehicle bodybuilding, a normal Land Cruiser or a Nissan Patrol or whatever was not going to do it. It was just going to be a dreadful compromise. So anyway, we decided from scratch to build a serious production overland vehicle. And what we really wanted to do, if we're going to do it properly, it had to be ADR approved, which is Australian design rules. Australian design rules are extremely strict, and it meant that it had to be made properly. We couldn't throw it together, it had to be done right. That took roughly 12 months. So I'm going to cover a lot of ground really, really quickly. So that took roughly 12 months. Once we decided what we wanted to make, we decided to build it on a Fuso truck for a number of reasons.
When Lance says a Fuso truck, just keep in mind a delivery truck, okay? So that's where it started.
Yeah, so we had to build a vehicle literally from scratch to meet the ADR rules of Australia and perform what we needed it to do out in the bush or wherever we wanted to take it in the world. A key ingredient, it must be able to fit inside a shipping container so we could travel around the world. That was a key ingredient. Anyway, so we built a vehicle. Just for fun and giggles, we took it to a caravan camping show in Australia, and where we were in Brisbane was roughly 1 million people live in Brisbane, roughly. And for context, over 80,000 people, this is in 2009, over 80,000 people showed up to that show, and that's very, very normal. So the overland travelling, remote travel business in Australia is huge. But we knew that. So anyway, and somebody come along and bought it, which is rather inconvenient. And so we thought, well, if we're not careful, we actually may have a business here. And so we thought, oh, okay, fine, we'll build some more. And before very long, we had a number of customers in Australia. And then I'm going to let Michelle pick it up from there.
The only reason we're in the U.S. is because I was gone for a very long time, and my parents are elderly, and they're in Portland, Oregon. So guess what? Here we are. So Lance, we moved to Portland for a couple of months, and Lance thought he was going to shoot himself in the head because of the rain. So we were looking within sort of a drivable distance as to where we could set up a business, where the sun shone, and this is how we ended up in Bend. And so I'll go back to Lance now.
So I thought it was too easy because all I was going to do and did for quite some time was commute between either Portland or Bend back to Australia, because we still had a business and customers who had made a significant commitment to build their wonderful EarthCruiser. So I just used to commute. You know, the planes leave at 11:55, QF11. I got to know it extremely well. So it's a commute, no big deal. So fast forward some more, again covering a lot of ground quickly, is that when we moved to Portland, rented a little place, and as Michelle said, the Portland, beautiful town, love it to death, absolutely fabulous, but I noticed the sun doesn't shine a great deal. So we literally rented a car, drove over the mountain. We had no idea what Bend was, didn't know where Bend was. All I knew was that the sun shone, and I thought, that is exactly what I need. So if we're going to stay here, so we jump in a hire car with our little Labrador, drive over the mountain. One of the first times in my life I ever stood on snow was rescuing the Labrador out of the snow. It was really that bad.
She loved it. She was like in heaven. She was a beach dog.
So anyway, so we arrive in Bend. We knew absolutely nobody. This is long before Bow and all the wonderful, amazing things that have been achieved. And I bumped into some people, probably crying in my beer and my coffee, trying to figure out if we're going to have a way of building or doing something in Bend where we could feed ourselves. And again, I was just commuting backwards and forwards. Somehow or another, somebody in the United States heard that it would be possible to get an EarthCruiser in the US, which really surprised me. I didn't think anybody would care. So, always believing nothing is impossible, we moved we got a left-hand drive truck from the US. We shipped it to Australia. I built an American vehicle in Australia, and we shipped it back, and somehow or another, somebody heard about it. And then we thought, okay, that was okay when we built the first one in Australia, because we had the means to take care of our customer, and now it kind of gets a little bit serious. When somebody else in the US wanted to buy one customer doesn't make a business. The moment that the moment the transaction of funds or commitment takes place, that is the beginning of the relationship, not the end. And that was a serious trigger moment for me personally, is that if we are going to take somebody's money and we're going to make a commitment, you keep it. That is a simple tenet of EarthCruiser. You make a commitment, you keep it, that's it. There's nothing more to be said. Outside of that, there's nothing but an excuse, and that is not acceptable. And so that was a moment. And I can say it was probably one of the best things we ever did.
It was one of the best things we ever did. It wasn't an easy thing, but it was one of the best things we ever did. And so after that first one came back from Australia to the US, we started taking orders. And then it was to figure out how to build them and who we could find to build them and how we were going to build them, how we were going to set up, how we were going to get the materials, who was going to work with us.
And so a few things, and this might sound a little bit sooky and gooey, and trust me, I'm not sooky or gooey, is that we said if we're going to do this, we're going to, okay, back one, all right? I am extremely grateful for what the United States has done for us. I'm an Aussie, right? This is Michelle's wonderful country. But America has always been so welcoming to me. And I felt that if we're going to do this, we're going to do it 150% or we ain't doing it. And that's all there is to it. And so we had options. We could build stuff in Australia. We could build stuff elsewhere. And I thought, no, bugger that. That's not fair. If these wonderful people are going to give us a go, we're going to do absolutely positively in our tiny little way that we can to give people in this wonderful town a job. I want to see kids in this school. I want to give kids a job in this town, in this country, not somewhere else. And that may sound a little bit gooey and sooky or whatever, but no, that's part of that commitment stuff. If people are prepared to give us a go, we're all in or all out. Michelle, am I very good at grey?
Lance doesn't do grey, in
We're
case you
either
haven't
black,
noticed.
We're either in or we're out. That's it. So that was a big thing for us. And so think about it for a second. All right. So I'm not sure. We're going to play a video. It doesn't seem like it's working. It doesn't matter. I don't know if everybody knows what an EarthCruiser looks like. But anyway, it's built essentially on a Fuso cab-over truck, which was a cab-over four drive. And most people were very unfamiliar with those. And we would talk to people and they go, you are absolutely nuts. No one's going to buy that. It's too expensive and there's nowhere to go in America anyway.
Believe it or not, people said to us, where can I take that? Because we've paved everything. And I thought, did you ever look outside?
This is way before the van life exploded. This is way before CVT and all the wonderful, amazing things that have happened. And I don't want to take away anything from that, but we were very fortunate that, and I think this, kind of when you're on the outside in, it's looking from the outside in, you see things differently, right? And so all I could see when I was flying backwards and forwards across America, that's an awful lot of ground out there that really needs to go be looked at. And I couldn't understand this idea that there was nothing to see. I just didn't understand that. And the more we learned, I thought, okay, all right. We may be fortunate that we can see something that nobody else can. And for any small business that wants to do something, that is the most beautiful thing in the whole wide world. If you can see it and you believe that, and you believe it's possible, that's just wonderful. And then the rest of it just becomes 101 nuts and bolts. But critically, it's the principles by what you want to be known by. And so a key principle for us was that commitment, we're in. That's all there is to it. What does in look like and what does in mean, and how do we make sure that we're always going to be able to, in our limited way, let's keep it real, in our limited way to be able to keep the commitment to ourselves, but more importantly to our customers. At the end of the day, it's our customers that create our business. Without them, we have absolutely nothing. And without fabulous, amazing crew to help support our customers, we have absolutely nothing. So how can we put those two things together? And for me, it was very simple. It was independence. Is that we always wanted to be able to make our decisions, not what the balance sheet said, but what our principles said must happen. So I've skipped up an awful lot of ground over EarthCruiser right now. And so if it's okay, is it okay if we ask questions?
Well, I was going to say, is there any possibility of running that video and then we can we can do questions?
Please. So just stay where you are.
Maybe.
Go to the side.
My name is Ellen Waite, and I manage EarthCruiser Adventures. EarthCruiser Adventures are small group overland trips exclusively for EarthCruiser owners. These experiences are to both domestic and overseas destinations and are designed with the capabilities of our vehicles and owners in mind. Our adventures travel off the beaten path and are led by EarthCruiser staff drawing from years of experience and expertise. The goal of every adventure is for our owners to gain further confidence in their vehicles and themselves. We'll make new friends and enjoy some pretty epic views along the way.
Hello.
Are we back? Oh, thank you. Okay.
So, short and sweet. works for me. So everything you just saw in those videos is made in American Lane, just down the road.
It's incredible. How about a round of applause for these two? And I just want to say, on the personal side of things, I grew up watching Crocodile Dundee a lot, and your vibes are just right. So thank you very much. I needed this. I think some of you needed this as well. Now, are all EarthCruisers unique? Are they? Is there certain styles? Because it looks like there's kind of a lot of different options there.
I'm also known not for being able to answer a question quickly, so some boring business stuff if you don't mind. So those cab-over trucks, again, we're small, we're tiny, and all that sort of stuff. And it was critical for me to be able to have a recognisable shape, right? People can't always remember a brand or whatever, but we are pre-programmed to recognise a shape. And so we stayed with the Fuso truck, or the cab-over truck, for a couple of reasons. One is it's sold in 80 countries around the world, and so we actually got in 2017 Emerging Exporter of Award, which was nice because we've posted them
For
all
Oregon,
over. Yeah, so we've posted them all over the world. I call them posting, whatever. Because that was unique, and that comes back to that Australian ADR. So the ADR is also, it has an opposite number with a 2 for an EU rule. So it meant that what we are building here can be exported and it's legally registered in Europe, and that is no small thing when it comes to motor vehicles. And we do that here. So, and we've got them in Asia. We send them everywhere. So anyway, and we've got customers literally right now driving all over the world. That's just what they do. So anyway, it was important to us to keep a recognisable shape because, again, we're a small, tiny little company, and how we can survive in this huge RV world of America. And I thought, well, no, let's just do one thing and do it as the best as we possibly can, and don't go mainstream, don't do that. Let's just focus on what the core promise that we made to our customers is, and that is you can jump in this thing, and one night in an EarthCruiser will change your life. Meaning that you just realise that you can go literally anywhere. And that's a really interesting mind snap for people. And so we wanted to put those two things together. I'm being quick now. And see, boss, I understand the boss. And so, anyway, so we stayed with that model, and it paid dividends for us big time because we're at a Overland show in Bad Kissingen in Germany. And lo and behold, there was an exact copy of an EarthCruiser. And we thought, this is great. This is exactly what we don't need at this point in time.
They did it from photos, believe it or not.
Believe it or not, it's just genius engineers. They, 100%, wonderful. They did a wonderful copy of an EarthCruiser, and unfortunately, we had to take them to an EU court to prove that they had copied our design, right? So we didn't have the means to patent everything that is around an EarthCruiser. That's ridiculous. And even to defend that patent is a joke, particularly in the EU. However, because we were consistent with our design, the EU said, no, you are trading off the shape of that EarthCruiser, and we're 100% successful in that court case. That is no small thing. And that was actually pretty big. And you've got interpreters and going through all of that. That is a very stressful moment, because if we would have lost that, it would have been so easy for them to go and shoot that over to another place where they could compete much better on price than what we could here, think about it, and everything that we had tried to secure and achieve could have evaporated in a heartbeat. So we're very fortunate that that worked out for us. It was not until I was satisfied that that shape was secured, if you will, that looks like an EarthCruiser, and if you see an EC driving down the road, you go, oh yeah, that is an EarthCruiser.
You need a hotline. There's like, if I spy like a fake EarthCruiser, like I'm calling that in.
It won't happen.
I'm not going to stand for it.
It'll be right. It'll be right. We can take care of it. And so it was only until I was satisfied that would happen is that we decided to build on a US domestic chassis. And there's one parked outside, it's called a Terra Nova. If we would have done it the opposite way and built, and I would have called it the easier way, built on a US domestic chassis, which would make a ton of sense, right? But to make it so that was recognisable instantly as an EarthCruiser would have been very, very difficult. And for our cab over customers, because those trucks are all over the world, it's much, much easier to get them serviced all over the planet. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. How many of these are you making a year?
Not enough.
Oh. What's the wait list?
Roughly a year.
Roughly a year. You could have one Q1, Q2 next year. Oh, gosh. Okay, let's start with John. Okay, we're going to give in the red jacket. What percentage of your sales goes to end users or versus tour operators? It's a
Very
great question.
deliberately, we are directly to consumer, and there's a strong reason for that, is that we don't use a dealer network. Again, we wanted to build our business one customer at a time, and particularly, not so much now, but in the early days, me personally, I had a lot to learn about, I'll tread carefully, I had a lot to learn of what it was like to be in America, and I didn't want to assume anything.
You're fine.
So having a one-on-one conversation was incredibly valuable to us. Does that answer your question?
Sorry. We don't do anything through tour operators. So just so you know, most of our vehicles are designed for 2 to 4 people. So they're definitely not a tour product at this moment in time.
2 to 4 people. That sounds like my size party at the bar. What's the employee head count now? How big is the team?
Okay, excellent. So our business model, again, keeping it real, was that we would design our stuff, prototype our stuff, get outside manufacturers to build our stuff, and then we would assemble it. So stay with me, right? So we didn't have the resources to go and buy those wonderful CNC machines and all that sort of stuff. And to me, that was silly anyway, because, again, we were going to sell one this month, skip a couple months, not sell one. It made no sense, right? And particularly, at the beginning, as everything's changed now, but in the beginning, we wanted to be able to control what we could control. I'll answer your question. To control what we could control and not stress about what we couldn't. So we didn't want payments on big machines that we weren't sure that we could put to work. So the business model from the beginning was we design it, prototype it, get people who have those lovely machines to make it for us, then we assemble it. So we've got our headcount's roughly 60 at the moment and growing rapidly. But we probably employ another 120 contractors in Central Oregon on top of that.
So cool. Yeah. My question, MVP.
So, recently, they have a contract for some emergency response, production. Is that something you need to ramp up financing and production for?
So is this confirmed? You have contracted emergency response vehicles in place. Did you have to ramp up? Did you have to increase your financing? What was that process like for you?
Okay, good. Do you mind if I can answer? Sorry, I can never answer a question quickly because there's a backstory to that. There's always a backstory, right? But it's important. I mean, whatever. All right, so what happened? We were building on the Fuso four-wheel drive truck, right? Fuso decided they didn't want to make four drives in America anymore, so we had to create a four-wheel drive truck for our core business, right? So we actually literally had to go and make a four-wheel drive cab-over truck using a Fuso. Unfortunately, after we had done that and done all of the federal testing and made it a legitimate four-wheel drive, the only cab-over, brand new four-wheel drive truck in its class in America, Fuso decided they weren't going to make the base truck at all anymore. So we were literally out of business. Fortunately, we don't give up overly easily. So we went to Isuzu, which is actually a subsidiary of GM, and we said to them, can you sell us the bits and pieces of a truck, and can we turn that into a four-wheel drive? And they said, absolutely. And so it's never waste a crisis, right? Every time a disaster arrives, there's something that you can do with it if you've got enough brain space and enough terrific people around you to help muddle your way through it. And we have always been just so fortunate to have just wonderful people around us. And so, so fair enough. So we did the whole process all over again, and we started to make the only four-wheel drive cab over truck in America with the blessing of one of the largest vehicle manufacturers on the planet. But there was a risk, right? Because, okay, Isuzu, are you going to bring in a four-wheel drive truck now that we've started to create a business? What's going to happen here?
They produce four-wheel drive trucks elsewhere, so they just don't bring them into the States.
Gotcha.
So the compliancing and all the drama that you have to go through to make that happen made no sense for a major vehicle manufacturer, but a tiny little organisation in wonderful Bend, Oregon in American Lane, for us that was no big deal. So what? It can't be too hard. And so that's exactly what we did. So we ended up making a four-drive cab over truck, had the blessing of Isuzu, said, no, you've got it, that business is all yours. And with that trigger, then we could go to the state emergency services, etc., and said, you want to buy a four-drive truck that can be supported at the level that you guys need it? And they said, absolutely. So at thus far, and by the way, EarthCruiser is completely self-funded. That's it. That was also important to us. It's Michelle and I, that's all. Because it came back to, we never want to have to compromise on a decision that we just don't want to have to compromise. We just don't have to compromise for our customers. And we all know that sometimes the balance sheet can get involved, and I didn't want the balance sheet to always decide.
So I'll just answer the question a bit more quickly than Lance. We are focusing more on our commercial business. We are looking more towards those kinds of disaster relief platforms, a few other things like that. And so we are ramping up to do that. But we created that truck chassis into that four-wheel drive for our core business of the EarthCruiser Overland vehicle. So it is the base platform for us anyway. So it's a natural segue into this market.
Okay, so what do you drive when you're going to the grocery store?
Can I just say this? My husband just got me a BMW, and I
Yeah.
am so happy because he can play with trucks at work.
Oh, you love it every time. You love it every time. What about you?
An old Jeep. I got Michelle's old Jeep.
That makes sense. That makes sense. I feel good about that. Okay, any last questions for my friends? Okay, yes.
Any stories about your vehicles having any kind of failure around the world, remote spot?
This is going to be a great way to end. Do you have any stories about your vehicles failing? This is like a really wild, like around the world somewhere where this. It seems so big.
Okay.
How do you get them out of these remote places?
So we're not talking about the vehicle failure. We're talking a bit of an operator error one.
That's exactly what I thought.
So
Yes.
that's
Makes sense, Michelle.
That's the best one. So Lance and I were doing this GPS race. It was called the Budapest to Bamako a couple of years ago. And so it was, it's not a timed event essentially, but you have to pick up GPS points. So we're in Mauritania. We're doing really well this day. We're, in the Sahara. We're hitting all the GPS points, and then all of a sudden we head over this dune, and do you know where the softest sand is? It's at the bottom of the dune. And it's really, really fine. So Lance buries it because we're going fast, trying to get up the other side. Yes, that's where the operator error comes in. And so there's nothing around. There's nowhere to winch from. So we try burying the tire like you do. We try digging. We try using our sand mats. But the sand is so fine that they just went whooshka, and we never saw them ever again. So this was about 6 o'clock at night when this happened. So we dug until about midnight, and then we're like, well, screw this. We're not making any progress. So we had a bottle of wine. We had a shower. We had something nice to eat, and the next morning we woke up really early when the sand was cooler. Still nothing to winch from, except about, 300 meters? There was this little sand hillock at the top of the dune that had some camel grass coming out of it. So what we did was we took off every bit of cable that we had. So we had a front and a rear winch, our snatch straps, our everything. We took the rugs out of the truck, and it took us another, 16, 18 hours to winch ourselves up that damn sand dune to the top, where we kept going, and we caught up with the rest of them, the next day. So that was the operator error.
You two are wild.
And we're still here, and we're still married. Now that's, you know.
That is impressive. That is impressive. I mean, a hot shower and a bottle of wine, you know?
It doesn't sound that dreadful, does it?
It sounds kind of
I'll just
nice.
say that Mauritania was dry, so we had to carry our own wine, and it was cold because it was white, and it, yeah.
Y'all
Yeah.
are wild. I just love it. Okay, do we have one more question? Can we do one more question? Okay. Yes. What are your consumer demographics? Who is buying? Great question.
Michelle. Definitely Michelle
Superheroes
question.
in disguise.
So I've handled sales for a very long time, and now as we've grown, we have professional salespeople to do the sales part. Our demographic at the beginning was people who came up through, they did the tents, they did the rooftop tents, they did the truck campers, and they just wanted to be able to go farther and longer. And we sort of saw a lot of people sort of our age or maybe a little bit older. It's not that way anymore. It's everybody. I mean, we've got young people, we've got people, our oldest customer I think is 82.
Wow.
We've got a few customers in their 70s, they're still doing this. We had, one of our early customers was from Airbnb. You know, he was 28 years old. He used to use his EarthCruiser to camp in San Francisco, you know, on the street. So we have a lot of customers. We see a lot of single people now, as well as couples, and now we're starting to see more families.
I'm having a vision of my parents in an EarthCruiser, and it's going to haunt me all night. So thank you so much for that. I don't even know what to do with that. You two are amazing. This was so fun. Thank you, Lance and Michelle. Incredible. I have a gift for each of you. So I have a PubTalk ginormous beer stein. I have one for you as well, Lance. Now, you can bring these back to PubTalk, but I understand that one of you is sitting on the board. Is that right? So, well, I'm told if you bring it to the board meeting, they'll fill it for you there as well, which is actually
that
pretty
right?
wild if you really think about it. I think you. I feel like it belongs on an EarthCruiser. Thank you so much, both
Thanks for
of you.
having us.
Thank you. Okay, there's an EarthCruiser parked outside. This is so fun. You can go check it out, see if you feel right inside of it, and then get yourself on that wait list. How about another round of applause for Lance and Michelle?